Hello, everyone. Today I'm joined by my MMA coach, Chris Torres, and it's been honestly an honor to have you on here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah. Right on, Bassett.
Yeah. I actually don't think I ever got the chance to actually ask you about like the martial arts and like what you trained in actually, like specifically.
Uh, no, sure. My martial art background. I started. I was considered. My mother considered me too violent to do like any striking arts, so she finally relented for me allowed to do judo. So judo was my first art, and I did judo all the way up until high school, and then in high school I started wrestling, and then once I turned 18 and my mom couldn't control me that much anymore, then that's when I started diving into like karate and other martial arts. So you know how you have musicians that can play all the instruments. So
Yeah.
I'm the martial artist that can do all these different arts. So I've done. I'm a full time martial artist. I've practiced martial arts my entire life. So, Eskrima, Muay Thai, boxing, karate, Kembo, Kabuto, Iaido, uh, you name it. Like if I wasn't in school working, then I was, training martial arts nonstop. So now I kind of just, once I got into the film business, that now I started focusing more on choreography. But yeah, I'm
Okay.
lifetime martial artist. Love it, eat it up.
Okay. So that's pretty amazing because that's actually a lot that you mentioned.
Yeah. Well, it just was my interest. You know, uh, I think so. In America, sometimes too, though, sometimes you're forced to do other martial arts
Yeah.
because schools open up and schools close. So
Yeah.
I was involved in Kempo for a long time. I loved it. BKF Kempo, Steve Sanders, who's now Steve Mohammed, and I went one day to the school, and not him, but one of his black belts came here to Bakersfield and opened up a school, and it was very successful for many years. And then I show up, and one day the doors are locked, and he's out of business. So
Oh wow.
no more Kempo. Time to find another school to go train at. So
Yeah.
yeah, so in America, you tend, I think, more so than any other places, you tend to do multiple arts because they're more readily available, or schools come and go. So yeah,
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
yeah,
That is the one thing in America. It's like the mixing of martial arts. It's very prevalent.
yeah, yes. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. I
Yeah.
think, for example, like you and I connect because of MMA and jujitsu, and so what I tell people is that jujitsu if you want to go all the way back, jujitsu originated in China, right? Chenya, and then
Yeah.
and karate from Okinawa also came from China due to the trade routes, right? So the traders
Yeah.
would trade China, and then they go into Japan and Okinawa and Japan, and then that influenced them. So China, Japan to Brazil to America. When jiu-jitsu came to America, they had no takedowns. They didn't do any stand-up, and the art evolved. And so jiu-jitsu done today doesn't look anything very. That
Yeah.
is nothing like it was when I first learned it. So yeah,
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, yeah, I mean, it did start obviously in Asia, and
yeah,
then it eventually got its way to Brazil and then to America, obviously.
yeah. But it evolved. Each stage it evolved, right? So
Yeah.
obviously none of us know what it was like in China at that time. But if you imagine from China to Japan, it evolved. From Japan to Brazil, because a lot of people don't know this, but Brazil has the highest Japanese population outside of Japan.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they have the most concentration of Japanese civilians population because they just have a really good trade agreement with Japan, and so you had a
Oh,
big influx of people moving to Brazil in the early 1900s. So they have a big population there. So that brought the jujitsu, and so it evolved there. And then when jiu-jitsu was brought to America, it's evolved again. You know, America's a melting pot, right? You
Yeah.
have the such a huge amount of freedom here, and you're protected by laws. So that way, if you want to go open up Bassett's Jiu-Jitsu Master School, you know, no one's going to come knocking on your door challenging you to fight. And if you lose, you have to close down your school, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good and bad, right? Because with the good people that want to evolve it, there's also the people who are, you know, not real black belts. But
Yeah.
it's not much as a problem anymore now because social media and the
Yeah.
internet, it's really easy to call people out.
Yeah. You know, it's not a bad idea. Maybe I should do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, man, call them out, man. Call them out. It's the best thing you can do. So
Yeah. So, generally speaking, like obviously, like since I've like trained with you, one of the things I like is that focus on like these details that a lot of people miss. So is
yes.
that generally what your philosophy is, like on martial arts?
Yes. First of all, I with everyone, you know, your instructors uh, give you the biggest impressions. And you know, in life, when you look at it, you know, first of all, to be an instructor, you have to accept always being a student. Okay, and so I'm dedicated to lifelong learning. And being a student, it's always in the details. It's the minutia because when you begin something, it's big strokes, right? If you ever look at your handwriting or anything that you do as a child, they're big, right? The pictures are big,
Yeah.
kids off the pages, and then as you develop your skill set, they get smaller, they get more detail oriented, right?
Yeah.
And so that's with skill is as you develop, you have to get into the minutia because up at a certain level, it's all about the small details. The big movements, everyone knows they got that, and what really separates really high level people is the details. And so, yeah, I try to do my best to give everyone the best details, the best technique, right? So because I want to make sure that I provide them with the best technique in the moment right now, knowing that theoretically there's still mistakes, but we
Yeah.
can't see them, right? So that's what keeps us
Yeah.
humble, because we are doing something wrong now, but we don't know it. So,
Yeah.
but eventually we'll find it, and then we'll make adjustments.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I like that. Funny enough, I've actually talked about this like idea of like perfectionism before, like on my podcast before.
Yeah.
And like what you're mentioning, it's like it's probably the closest thing you can do to try and be as perfect as you can, I guess, in a sense.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. There's again, you know, as the saying goes, right? How you train is how you perform, right? And
Yeah.
so practice makes permanent. So perfect practice makes was what you want. If you
Yeah.
don't practice to the highest level of perfection, which again, we can't really achieve it, but that's our goal. So if
Yeah.
you do the best, pay attention to details, then you're going to be able to utilize it to the best of your ability.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Yeah.
So obviously aside from myself, like who's one of the people that you've trained with that you would say is that you were just like really impressed with?
Um, well, you know, well, I mean, I've been impressed by all my instructors. I always feel like my instructors were far more gifted than I am. Um, I would have to say Higa Machado, my original jiu-jitsu instructor, um,
Okay.
only because unlike other martial arts, you know, you grow up boxing, kickboxing, doing karate and striking and stuff like that. At that time, though, the and wrestling and all the arts, but jiu-jitsu was so new, and to actually experience the helplessness, to experience the amount of pressure that just the unstoppable skill that somebody can possess. And Higgin Machado is my original instructor, and to this day he still has the most profound influence on my game.
Yeah.
And so it was just incredible. It was like it's just like, the world's crushing you,
Yeah.
and it was really, the Machados are five brothers, and John Jack being questionably the most famous, but Higgin was always the best. So then at one point, Higgin was arguably at the same level as Rickson Gracie when they were in Brazil. They're cousins, they're related, they're
Yeah.
family, and they had a match, and you can watch it on YouTube. And Higgin lost, but I mean, they're cousins, they're family. It's not like it's some kind of rivalry or anything like that.
Yeah.
But that's the level that Higgin was. And when I met Higgin and trained with him, it was like, wow, I want to be able to do that. So it sucked me in. But every art, the instructors that I worked with, they're just in awe. My Kachukembo instructor, he's a rarity because he's only done Kachukembo, which is very difficult to have somebody who's only done one martial art in this day and time.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but I think as an overall view, string theory, that I like to work and learn from those people who focus at that high level.
Yeah.
Regardless whether it's jujitsu, boxing, eskrima, there's at all in all arts, there's those people who focus on those details, who have that highly evolved technical skill, right? Because there's no corners in knowledge, right? And so there's just that level. And when you get to that level, that's when you see all these other people who are also striving for that. So yeah, it's awesome.
No, I like that. I like how you mentioned that there are no corners, there's no shortcuts to knowledge, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, definitely no shortcuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, if there was only one way of doing things, then you'd have one car. You wouldn't have hundreds of brands.
Yeah.
And
We'd have
in
only one martial art,
sports,
right?
yeah, and in sports, you'd have one instructor or one coach that everyone would come to and train, right?
Yeah.
So it's everyone, what it is just understand that level, and then you
Yeah.
start to strive for that. And everyone has different concepts and different theories, right? But you still have to put in the hard work. You still have
Yeah.
to practice. You still have to make mistakes, and you have to fail. And I
It's
think
true.
I think if I can leave anybody with anything, is that failure is the process to success. You're gonna fail. I always like the analogy that I tell people. Since I'm in the film industry, all my references are film references, right?
Yeah.
So so when about failure is, we all remember the Matrix when Neo did his first jump, right?
Yeah.
And what happened? What happened to Neo when he did his first jump?
Honestly, I haven't watched it in a minute, so I don't
Yeah,
remember.
he fell. He didn't make it.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
failed, right? And the
Yeah.
characters go, "Oh, he didn't make it. He's supposed to be the one. What does that mean?" And one of the characters go, "It doesn't mean anything. Everyone falls the first time, right?"
Yeah.
So yeah. So but yeah, the failure is what generally holds everyone back. Fear
Yeah.
of failure. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, that is a very good point, actually. That does hold a lot of people back. And you mentioned something about the film industry, which I was going to ask you because I remember you did tell me that you were like a stuntman,
I
right?
am a star. Well,
Yeah.
not that I was. I
Yeah, I
am a
mean, you still are. Yeah. How was it like working in Hollywood and just like being a stuntman in general?
Oh,
What got you into it?
yeah. Well, I mean, um, for me, I think I tried everything else until I just could not find an industry that I was happy in. And then I realized that it wasn't the jobs or the industries that I was in. It was me ignoring the desire to go work in the film industry. So I had always done plays in school. I was in high school. I instead of graduating in 3 years, I took my senior year and just did theater. And so I was always had an interest in television and film. And so once I finished college and my son was old enough, then I made the jump and went down and got involved in the entertainment business. And as a martial artist, you have three ways that you can make a living. Okay. Now, you can go get a job and do martial arts, and there's plenty of people who have careers, doctors, lawyers, very
Yeah.
successful people, and they do martial arts, but they don't do martial arts for a living. So, for a
Yeah.
living, as a martial artist, you have three avenues. The first one is that you can teach, right? You can open up a school and you can teach. That's the most obvious. Now, thanks to mixed martial arts, a lot of martial artists can now make a living as fighting, right? And in the past, if you weren't a kickboxer, you really didn't make any money fighting in martial arts, right? So if you're a
Yeah.
karate or if you were a kung fu guy or wrestling, you didn't make money unless you were like you couldn't because you had to do kickboxing. But now with
Yeah.
mixed martial arts, you can bring a skill set, pick up the other skill sets, and you can fight. So
Yeah.
for the first one was you can teach martial arts to make money as a profession. You could fight, or what martial arts have been doing since the dawn of time, and especially in Hong Kong, right? You work in the film industry, right? You do fight
Yeah.
choreography and you do fight scenes, and so that's what I did. I went down to L.A. and I had a mentor here in Bakersfield who's a stunt guy, Jim Hardy. Big shout out to him. Thank you very much. He guided me and showed me how to get into the business, got me my first jobs, and then I from there I just went through all the normal struggles that anyone does, and then made a career out of being a stuntman. So
So, have you what are some like of the movies that you worked in as a stuntman?
uh, let's see. Call of Duty. Oh, well, sorry, Call of Duty's video game, but I've done Star Trek. I've done Flags of Our Fathers, Letters from Iwo Jima. Um, I've done I the films I worked on this year are untitled, so I don't know what the working titles are going to be. I This summer I was in Mexico for 3 months and I doubled Channing Tatum on a film with Zoe Kravitz directing. And
Okay.
then I was in Scotland this year working on another action film. So that has yet to be titled. So, but I work in television, film, and video games and commercials. So, like the video games, the most famous one being Call of Duty franchise, which I worked on for several years, like 5 or 6 years, off and on throughout that time period.
Oh, really? Like the
Yep.
first one, I'm guessing, right?
Pardon me?
The first one, Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. The first one I worked on was World at War.
Oh,
That was the one where they went back to World War II, and then
okay.
from there I went on to World at War, and then I worked on another one. Then I did um, uh, what is it? Modern or Black Ops 2, Zombie Packs, like all these different generations of Call of Duty.
I'm assuming the job in general, overall, is like a very demanding job, right?
Yes, yeah. If you what I tell people is that the entertainment business is a lot like the military, but we fake everything. If I die, I get to come back. If I get blown
Yeah.
up, I'm really blown up most of the time. But yeah, it's just like any other contracting work. It's feast and famine. You get real busy,
Okay.
you have time off.
All right. You said you worked on Star Trek as well. How was that?
Yes, the when they re kicked off the franchise, the very first one with Chris Pine and that whole new cast. I worked on that first one. Yep,
Okay.
I was a Romulan. I was bald and tattooed, and yeah, I spent 3 months working on that film. That was an awesome experience. So yep.
What are like some of the celebrities that you met?
I've
Like,
worked with all of
yeah.
them. I worked with
Oh,
Clint Eastwood, Tom Cruise, Channing Tatum, Zoe Kravitz. And trying to think of it's probably yeah. I've worked with so many actors and at television shows. I did Detroit 187. I did a whole bunch of TV shows. It's hard to always remember them all. You have to pull them up and go through them. But yeah, I've worked with tons of celebrities. Yes.
Is there like any celebrity that you met and it was like on camera they're different, but in real life they're different? Like
Um,
either.
you know, there are basically there's two types. There's the actors who are their on-screen presence is different than who they are in person, and then there's the actors and actresses that are the exact same. Like they you see them on camera and then you meet them in person and you're like, they're not even acting. That's just it's who they are. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting. It's very interesting because so what I call it what I call it is camera charisma,
Yeah.
right? So it's what's called the X factor or the it factor, right? It's you see somebody on screen and you're mesmerized by them, right?
Yeah.
And so it was always interesting to me. The ones that I found most interesting, actors or actresses, was on camera. You're like, wow, this person's amazing, and then in person, they're just real quiet, reserved, and you're like, how is this the same person?
Yeah.
It's uh yeah, it was pretty amazing. Sometimes you're like, wow, that for whatever reason, they're who they are is very magnified with the camera. So,
Yeah.
and then there's people who are just as magnetizing in person as they are on camera. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then,
I know what you mean.
yeah, and so let me, like, for example, Michelle Rodriguez, right? Now she's most famous for the Fast and Furious franchise, right? But her career got started in a very, very small film called Girl Fight, which is an awesome movie. And I recommend anybody to go watch it. It's called Girl Fight. And so Michelle Rodriguez, I've worked with her several times, and she is not only is the same person and looks the same on and off camera. It's amazing. And so then there's other actresses and actors. You're like, on camera they have this big massive personality and they're electrifying, and then when they say cut and they walk off set, you're kind of like, how's that person this big mega star? Because they're like quiet, reserved.
Yeah.
If they walked by you wouldn't even notice them. you know so yeah. And then but the one thing though is that a lot of people is that they like you hear stories, and some stories are true and some stories aren't. But what I tell people to understand is that you really can't judge a person on set um, by how they are on set, because let's say if you're a director, or if you're a lead actor, right, or an A-lister, a big star, you have a lot of pressure on you on set. There's we're all there for that actress or actress to do their thing, right? So there's a lot of money riding on their performances. And so I tell people is, you got to understand, when they show up to set, they have a job to do as well, right? They don't get paid big money for nothing.
Yeah.
So when they come on set, they're stressed. They got lines to remember. A lot of people don't understand that they might have even rewritten the dialogue the night before, or even just before they come on set, and now they have to relearn lines, or they have to something's completely different, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe they're not getting along with their co-star, or they're not getting along with the director personally. So you don't know what's going on in their world. So if somebody's rude on set, or someone's like, I said hi to that actor and they didn't say hi back. Well, they're about to perform a death scene. Do you really think that they're gonna be like, oh yeah, okay? Some actors are. Some actors are like, oh yeah, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, ready, action. Oh no, no. And they can turn it off and on. And then some of the actors who are more famous, right? Like is it Michael Day Lewis? I might be messing up his first name. Or Tom Hardy, who's real popular right now, right?
Yeah.
These are actors who don't have an off switch. They're that character, right?
Yeah.
Tom Hardy, when he's that character. He shows up to set, He's in the zone and he doesn't get out of the zone, right? And that's awesome for the performance, but it's horrible and very hard on the co-stars and the crew because they got to give him his space, right?
Yeah.
And then you got another actor who does the same intense stuff, but when they say cut, they're popping jokes and they're laughing and, and they just turn it off and on like that. It's amazing. So, yeah.
That's actually an interesting point. It's kind of like they're kind of getting in the zone right before they film, like some of them at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone has different processes, right? But the method, right? The method where they're in it. And there's and so you have to give them that spectrum, that broad spectrum. For example, I'll give you an example. So a lot of people, two stories. So Tom Cruise is an awesome person on set. I don't know him personally, and I've never interacted with him outside of the business. So, but on set, I can say without a doubt that he's very respectful. So the first instance was that I was working on Minority Report. So, and again, I've been in the business for 30 something years. So, right, if I make film references, it's over the course of 30 years, but Minority Report. And we had this scene in the scene in the mall where he's trying to escape the police, right? And they're cutting through all the people in the mall. Well, they had mapped out a course and had stunt people where Tom was supposed to run into them, right? And they're ready for it. Well, when you get a mall, right? The whole mall's rented, right? It was a non-functioning mall down in LA, and you have 300 people, right? And so if two people move to the left, that forces another 30 people to move to the left. So on action, all of a sudden his nice path that they made with the stunt people changed. And so Tom comes barreling through and he just floors this woman. He just decks her, man. He just flattens her. Boom. And I'm, oh my God, that girl, lady, she's gonna be out. And and you have to, unless somebody is severely injured, you have to keep going, even when you make a mistake. Because that shot, every shot costs money. So as long as nobody is injured and like crying out or blood squirting out, you keep rolling and get the shot. So Tom runs through there, he just decks this woman and he just keeps going. And I was like, damn. And then on cut, you see Tom run as fast as he can. And he picks that woman up and he goes, "Are you okay? I'm very sorry. I'm so sorry that the crowd moved and that was the only direction I could take." And it was very personable, right? Because it was just a background woman, right? And so she said, "I'm fine. There's no problem." He said, "Okay, thank God. I'm so sorry. That won't happen again." And so here's arguably one of the biggest stars in the world, and he still didn't get upset. And he said, "It's my fault. I'm sorry." To this person, who is just a background player, which is probably the lowest status person on set, right?
Yeah.
So that goes to show you how you really can't judge people, right? So, and then another thing with Tom was another one that's real famous was when they're doing, I think they were doing the Mission Impossible during COVID, and you can look up online, and someone recorded him yelling at crew members because they weren't wearing their masks, right? Yeah. And people were like, you can't, that's inappropriate, that's abuse, blah, blah. They saw things. Well, yeah, but you have to understand that Tom isn't just an actor anymore. He hasn't been just an actor in decades. He finances his films. He's part of the financial responsibility of films, right? Okay. So you're shooting two $100 million plus films together. So you're looking at a $300 million production, okay? Because they're filming both films together, okay? So you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars a day, okay? And so he's there. And if you at that time, if you didn't follow those COVID rules, the COVID officers on set would shut you down.
Oh, okay.
So the COVID officer with one phone call could shut down a multi-million-dollar production instantaneously. Right? You're not following COVID procedures, shut down the production. Everyone go home. Doesn't matter how big of a star you are. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how much money you have. You're done, right? So Tom, he's looking at the numbers like, hey, if we have to shut down this production for 2 weeks, this is going to wreck financially. It's going to cost 10, 20, $30 million because now timelines have to shift, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at it from that perspective, now you can understand the frustration.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you crew member, you're only caring about yourself, but by not following the guidelines, you're risking shutting down this whole production and millions of dollars down the drain. So I once you understand that, then people go, oh, I can see why he might be a little upset.
I mean, now that you put the whole story, it kind of does make more sense why he would be a bit more like serious about it.
Yes, yeah, and Tom's very intense, and he's a perfectionist. First of all, he's a perfectionist about himself. So a lot of people are like, well, he just does this or that, but no, he wants to do the best he can, and so he's intense, and so when he comes to set, he's prepared and he's ready to work with other professionals who are prepared as well. And the one thing in my business, what I tell people is, a lot of people, they have to go to work, right? They got a job, they got to get up, they go to work. Okay. In my business, we don't have to go to work. We get to go to work. You don't have to be in the entertainment business. I don't have to be a stuntman. So if you're coming to work with less than 100%, and then don't be there, right? Because this is a privilege to be in the entertainment business, to do stunts, to travel the world, to get to pretend for a living is a privilege. And then a lot of people who come to the industry don't get to do it. So don't come to set and not be ready to give 100%, right?
I like that. I like that because it's kind of like usually assuming it's like a passion of someone, and it's something that you should be giving 100% to.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no rule that says you have to be a stunt person or be an actor or be a crew member or be a
Yeah.
background player, right? You don't have to do that. You don't have to be there. You get to be there, right? Because for like in my industry, there's at least 100 other guys that are my look, my height, my body weight, and better skills than what I have. So it's a privilege for me to be able to go to work. So if I go in there with an ego, the coordinator is going to go, well, Chris, you're gone. There's another 100 guys with more skills than you do that I can call the set with a better attitude, right?
Yeah. No,
And
I like that mindset.
yeah, well, I've been kicked off a set, so especially now at my age, I do oftentimes, some people come to me for information or for stuff, but very, very early in my career, I was doubling a lead actor. And in my business, we call that a 1X. When you double the lead in a film or a television, that you're, as a stunt person, one is the lead, right?
Yeah.
Let's say it's Tom Cruise, since we threw that name out there already. So first person on the call sheet is Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
In the stunt department, the person doubling them is called 1X. You're the first double, right?
Oh.
And so, I got one of my early doubling jobs, and I'm in Romania, and I'm all, my head swelled, and and I was doing the choreography and all this stuff. And so I gave the coordinator an attitude on set, and he turned to the director and he said, hey, either he leaves or I leave. And so I spent the next couple of days realizing that I wasn't the hot shit that I thought I was.
Yeah,
after I apologized and learned my lesson, the coordinator called me back, and it's not uncommon in my business, to get a little bit too much of an ego when you first get there, right?
yeah,
So hard lesson. Yeah.
yeah. No, that's true. So,
Yeah.
before we end off, do you have anything you want to say that you didn't get a chance to say, or
Is there anything that
any
I didn't
closing thoughts?
cover that you'd like to cover? Is there any questions or anything you have that?
Mm, let me try and think. Wh- What would you say is the hardest part about being a stuntman?
Uh, I I'll tell you what the and this is probably for all the industry.
Yeah,
And I always it's always like giving advice, but anyways, I'll just do it anyways. When you get into this business, and I believe it's across the board, it doesn't matter just as a stunt person, crew member, actor, you know, uh, it isn't it has to be the first priority, the biggest, the only thing. So, uh, uh, a buddy of mine, uh, um, and he doubles. He's a big time double now and stuff and whatnot. But he gave me this analogy, and that's what really made sense. Is that it has the industry has to take priority over everything, over your relationships, over the you're going to Christmas parties, going to birthday parties. And it also, in my business, it also has to take a priority over your health. Because in my business, we get paid to get hurt.
yeah,
Sometimes we get injured. We don't want to get injured, but we're paid to get hurt. Hitting the ground hurts. Taking a reaction hurts. Getting hit by a car hurts. Falling downstairs hurts. So this is the hurt business. But it has this business, and whether you're a director and crew actor, it has to be the main thing above everything else. So, and whenever you're pursuing um, something out of like working a regular job with, like, let's say you're an athlete, let's just say you're pursuing a higher level of education career, right? Like a doctor, a lawyer, any of these pursuits that require more than just showing up and punching a clock, right? They have to be your priority for a certain time, right? When you're in law school, you can't, most people don't make it through law school and party full time. Okay.
yeah,
There's a certain time where you got to buckle down, and that has to be your only thing for a little while, right?
yeah,
So in the entertainment business, it has to always be first, because you'll get the weirdest calls at the weirdest times. Like, for example, last year, um, my buddy called me to take over a film for him, and I'm like, oh sure, no problem. I figuring it was going to be filmed in L.A. So after I agreed to take over the film, he goes, oh, by the way, you're going to spend 6 weeks in Scotland. And I'm like, okay. So then I had to rearrange my life and go to Scotland, right? But regardless of what was going on in my life at that time, either I went to Scotland or I didn't take the job, right? So in my business, it has to take your priority over everything. And that's hard. It's very hard. It's hard on relationships, it's hard on families, and it's hard on the individual, because it's hard to do these other things in life. You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
a good point because that's how passions are in general. But yeah,
yeah,
it
right.
was a real honor to have you on here.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
everyone that enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe, hit that bell
Yeah.
notification.
Yeah.
And
And if
until next time.
if you ever if you get any other interests, like how to get started in the stunt business or anything else that comes up from this, or the jujitsu, which we didn't get to talk a lot about, but no problem coming back on and talking with you. So
Yeah, no, for sure. It'd be an honor to have you on here again.